Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hey, a happy Memorial Day to all of you. I hope you are able to celebrate, and I wonder if the glitch I just saw on the screen is going to be something you see in the video. That was interesting. Anyway, happy Memorial Day. I hope everyone's had a great, safe, and fun weekend. Thank you to all those who have served as we honored them this weekend. And now it is summertime. The official, well, the unofficial start of summer, shall we say, is now in the rearview mirror as I record this on Memorial Day. And as you will hear this Monday evening as we release it, it's now summertime. That's just mind-boggling. Last week's episode of the podcast did really well. The Boston issue debate still rages on. It has not gone anywhere. It is still very big in the running world. So if you did not listen, make sure you listen into last week's episode where we talk about what's going on with the Boston Marathon and the moving finish line that they had this year, the moving finishing time that really irked a lot of people and cost some people some pretty big achievements, at least in my opinion. This week, we have a special guest who's going to be on here in just a second. This is an interview we recorded a few days ago. So you'll wonder why I'm not wearing the same attire then. I didn't feel like trying to pretend like, hey, I'm doing it right now. No, we recorded this a few days ago as she was available. And so I want to thank our guest for coming on. And let's go ahead and kick it to the interview. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. This also stems from the Boston episode. Again, last week was the roaming finish line or the moving finishing time, whatever you want to call it. And this week is kind of the aftermath of it and what we've seen, especially in the realm of social media. So right now we're going to kick it to the interview. All right, everybody, please welcome back our friend from deep in the heart of Texas. This is Hillary Burgess, and she is our Instagram celebrity. So please tell everyone how to find you on Instagram. Don't give me that. You're a stud out there. Like everyone knows who you are. So please reintroduce yourself to the Back of the Pack podcast faithful.
Sure. Glad to be back. My Instagram handle is running up that Hillary, and it is underscores under each of the words, and then Hillary with two L's because that is the way it should be spelled.
There you go. There you go. So Hillary and I met back in February. We both happened to be running the Rock and Roll Las Vegas half marathon. And I actually haven't seen you since then. So just give everyone a little update. How did your spring running season go since Vegas?
It went all right. So my big goal marathon was actually supposed to be the week before Vegas. I think I mentioned that I ended up getting strep. And then the week after Vegas, I did my makeup race. Was not 100%. So it was not, I did not hit the goal that I was trying to get. I finished in 4:51. So it was my third fastest full marathon ever. I was happy with it. It just wasn't quite what I had set out to do. And then since then, I've been coaching with my run club. We're in the middle of our spring summer season. It's called Pick Up the Pace or PUP. So it's a lot of short, fast speed work, and a lot less of the long, slow runs and everything. So it's a good break before I get into Berlin training.
That's right. Yep. Because you'll be in Berlin just like we will.
Yeah.
And tell us, so you are in Texas. How is the heat treating you down there right now?
Oh, it's bad. It's bad, Kyle. Thanks for asking. It is every day for the last week or two, it's been a solid 10 to 13 degrees higher than average temperatures.
Ooh.
So it's already bad here. Like if it's average temperatures for May, it's already not fun.
Mm-hmm.
But we're having weather like mid-July weather right now, and it's mid-May. So I don't know what the 20 milers and everything this summer are going to be like.
Miserable.
I mean, they're going to be slow, but hopefully I'll live through them. It's been bad.
Now, do you ever do any treadmills for long distance
Oh,
runs?
no.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I do not. No, my PR on a treadmill is 4 miles. And that is that's a lot for me.
Right.
It just sucks the joy from running for me, and it's a good tool. I mean, there's people who say, oh, it doesn't count if it's treadmill, whatever. And I mean, I think that's BS. I think it's a great thing for people if they have the mental tolerance for it. I just personally don't.
Right. Nope, I understand. I don't even own a treadmill. Don't want to get on
Yeah.
one. No interest. But speaking of things that are total BS, so last week on the podcast, we talked about this latest fracas, shall we say, with the Boston Marathon. And you read the same article that I did, I'm sure, and you are up
Yep.
on this situation. So, two things to cover. First
Sure.
is just kind of, what did you think of what they said about the time limits, and kind of how that all worked out for Boston? And then we're going to kind of get into the aftermath of which, because you are big time running influencer, you were on the forefront of this. I know I'm going to have so much fun embarrassing you now. It's great. But first off, okay, so we know about the moving target for Boston. What did you think of that? We talked a little beforehand. Dive on in.
I think it's tough. I mean, I think 6 hours is a fair cutoff, if they're gonna stick with it for everyone. I think my biggest problem with what the cutoff is that, if you start in wave two, you can finish in 7 hours and your time counts.
Yep.
If you start in wave four, then that's when the time starts. And it's not just chip time. Anybody who is over 6 hours, it doesn't count. It's just some people over 6 hours, it doesn't count. And I think that's more of an issue than, extending the time limit to 6:30, 6:15, whatever people are arguing for there. I think for me, at least, what the biggest inequity with the whole thing is just that it's not a hard 6 hour limit for everybody.
Yeah.
It's just some people, and you don't know if you're going to be one of those people. And so
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. The uncertainty, I think, would be the
Yeah,
worst out there. Now, you have done Boston, correct?
I have.
Okay. And so you didn't have any problems with ghost cars following behind you or anything like that?
No, no, I finished in 4:44. So I
Nice.
was nowhere near the time qualifiers, but
Right.
nowhere near you know, uh being swept or not finishing within the time. But it's still, and I had no idea what like I was one of the last people who started,
Mhm.
just because I took a long time taking off my sweats and changing shoes and like stopping at the bathrooms and everything. Like I was literally one of the last people that are like, all right, y'all gotta go. So if I had a bad race, and those happen to me
Mhm.
quite frequently, probably more than good races actually, then I would have been in a similar situation.
Yeah. But the real big story, at least I know for you, was kind of the aftermath
Yes.
of Boston. And again, I told you off air, but people were actually sending me what you were saying on your Instagram post. Like, have you seen what she said? Yes, I have. I've been watching this as well. But you definitely have run into, because you have a lot more followers and a lot more people that interact with you. You ran into the negative side of this
Yeah.
conversation. Why don't you just give us maybe examples if you got it,
Sure.
but just kind of what went down the rabbit hole of negativity surrounding this particular event?
Yeah, I think that, and this was a bigger problem than the original issue.
Mhm.
At least to me,
Agreed.
it went from just race specific to people coming in the comments of the Runner's World article, both on Instagram and on Facebook, and there were some things on threads that weren't direct comments to the article, but about the article. And instead of people saying, I think 6 hours is a fine limit, it's anyone who takes more than 6 hours has no business as a runner anyways. That's walking. That doesn't count. They should really think long and hard. That means they didn't train enough, and just all sorts of things like that is just that's what angered me more than anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what inspired me to look up what actual professional runners have said about amateur runners. And
Hmm.
what it kind of came out was that they're incredibly supportive and
Yes.
inclusive of other runners. It's the elitists on the internet are mostly like slightly above average runners with a chip on their shoulder.
Yes.
That's about what it is. they the same people who think that charity runners take their spot or have anything to do with what the qualifying cutoff time is. Wave 4 is going to be charity. It's going to be a certain size, and it has no effect on what the cutoff is. The cutoff is going to be based on if there's way more people who qualified within a given year, they're going to have some sort of cutoff, and has nothing to do with charity runners. And I've gone off on a spiel on that as well. That's a that's a whole other thing. But people who think that they have more of a place in not just the Boston Marathon, but the world of running in general,
Yep.
than somebody who might be slower. And I run with a lot of first time marathoners, a lot of slower runners. And to say that they are not putting in the same amount of work, or that I had somebody saying that, oh, a 6-hour marathon is the same distance as a 3-hour marathon is I guess discrediting to elite runners. And it's just a fact that, we're all running the same start line, the same finish line, and the same 26.2 in the middle of it. And it's the only difference is how long it takes to get there. And I will not ever be running a sub 3-hour marathon. Like, I
Right.
could literally quit my job and go hire a coach and move to altitude and make this my thing, and I would improve. But it's not something that I physically have the ability to.
Right.
Do I think I can improve? I'm currently, I would like to eventually get under 4 hours. And I think that over time I can get to something like that. Like, everybody can get better at something, but it's not a whole chart of the people who work the hardest are the fastest, and the people
Right.
who don't work at all are the slowest. And that's what a lot of people implied in comments, and that's what really angered me.
Yeah, it is kind of ridiculous. There is, like physical tools. Some of us are more prone and have the physical tools to run a sub 3 hour. And there's people like me who never in my wildest dreams would I get under 3 hours. But under the heading of the whole 3 hour versus 6 hour, it's the same distance thing. I've always kind of used that analogy. I like that one.
Yeah.
What can you narrow down a little more? What did that person actually say about it? Like, how does that discredit the faster runners if you say the 3 hours and 6 hours is the same distance?
So that guy in particular actually ended up deleting all of his comments because I responded along with multiple other people.
Hmm.
And so it was more, and that's kind of where where I got the inspiration to write the post that I did,
Okay.
with the quotes and everything. And he said, I promise if you ask any elite runner who runs under a 2:30 if they're running the same marathon as someone who runs a 6-hour marathon, that they will be offended. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't.
Right.
I really don't think they would. And then that's when and some of the quotes I already had saved. Like, I have a whole bookshelf of just my running books, and
Mhm.
whenever I see like a quote I like, I'll bookmark it
Okay.
because I'll go back and read it and stuff. So only a few of those were from the internet. The other ones I just kind of had handy, because that's what those are my favorite quotes to save in any running books that I have. And across the board, I couldn't even find any negative comments. I mean, I'm sure they exist. I can't imagine every professional runner of all time has been an inclusive person, but anybody who's had the success to put out a book and have people read it and care about what they say and things like that, like it's pretty across the board, just supportive of everyday runners. Um and so, I wanted to go back and tell that guy, but he deleted his comments and blocked me.
He
So
ran away. Oh, he
so
even
I made the
blocked
big
you.
yeah, so I made the
Wow.
big post instead. And I've never actually had that sort of reaction to a static post like that.
Yeah.
So it was yeah, it was exciting. Like, it definitely resonated with people.
Mhm.
And I think it's a good reminder, like we really are all running our own race, and the people who are professionals at it and have that kind of talent, like they're, I guess, confident enough in their own abilities that they don't have to talk badly or exclude people and things like that.
So go ahead, name drop a few. Who are some of the elites? Because I saw you put a few out there. Who are some of the elites though that are accepting of the slower runners?
Sure. So for the post that I made, I used Des Linden.
Yep.
Um, I used Dick Beardsley. And I met him at the Oklahoma City Marathon Expo last year.
Awesome. Oh, nice.
And he's in his like late 60s now, so he's slowed down a lot, but still running. And that's the other thing to remember is, this guy who he and Alberto Salazar went head to head and I think it was 82.
Mhm.
He ended up getting second place in the Boston Marathon. And then, a couple decades later, running a 2:27 half marathon. Um, and does that mean that he lost all his worth, or is it because at one point he was able to run a 2:08 marathon
Right.
that makes him set for life? It just doesn't make sense. Are elite runners supposed to just quit while they're on top and never run again? Um, so those were a couple. Steve Prefontaine,
Yep. Oh yeah.
one of my faves. Growing up, he was like the patron saint of running, and I mean he still is, but he was,
Yeah.
it was growing. I mean, I had a pre-poster on my wall. Like it was,
Nice.
he was a big deal in our household.
For sure.
Um, and Kipchoge.
Yep. The goat.
Um, and then I'm reading Meb's book right now,
Okay.
and I have a lot of things bookmarked
Mhm.
for a follow-up post. So
Okay.
Elite versus Elitist, Meb's version.
Okay.
And so I haven't fully written it yet because I still have a couple more chapters, but he's another one. And I have probably like 10 different things in his book bookmarked about he'll go from a chapter talking about how he won Boston, he won New York City, he won silver at the Olympics,
Yep.
things like that. And then also how much it means to be a marathoner for everybody, for it's a unifying experience and things like that. And so I am working on that one.
Nice.
And honestly, I think if I were to go through any of my books that I have, it would be a similar thing.
Yeah. Oh,
I
I imagine so.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've got part two coming up, but let's go back to part one.
Yeah.
Tell us overall the response, not just overall in the community, but I mean overall to your post.
Yeah.
How was the response from people?
Overwhelmingly amazing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get a single negative comment on it.
Not even
Um,
one?
not even one, not
Oh,
even
awesome.
one to that post. Uh, the uh, the original negative comment to me actually was on I have a video of me finishing my first marathon,
Mhm.
which took over 5 hours, and I was in rough shape at the end. It's actually the worst I've ever I've ever looked, and
You were all
it's
hunched
on
over on that
camera.
one, right? Weren't
What
you
was
hunched?
that? Yeah.
You were hunched.
Yeah, I was
Okay. Yeah, I
hunched
saw
over.
that video.
Yeah, and I actually tested positive for COVID that
Wow.
night.
Okay.
So at the time I was just like, I guess this is what it feels like once you go past 20 miles, like you you're just really I thought it was normal. Um and it was not. But it's literally the worst I've ever looked in my life. Like if anybody had taken pictures of me in labor, like I looked in less pain
Yeah.
than in this video. And somebody had commented, and most of the responses to that video have been really, really positive as well.
Mhm.
Um, and somebody had commented something about a how my race was the same length as a 2 hour marathon or
Right.
2:30 or whatever it was they said. And that was where that came from. Um, that's what inspired me to write the post. And most of the comments that I quoted in it were from the Runner's World article.
Hmm.
Um, and but the elite versus elitism one, 100% positive.
Yeah.
And like immediately 100% positive. I was not expecting so much like positive feedback like that.
Yeah, from what I saw, everyone was responding positively. I figured some jerk face had to have snuck in something, but that's great that
For
they
that one
didn't.
in particular, no.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
wow, that's good. All right, so when can we expect the second post? Because like this, I think that the Runner's World article probably brought a lot more attention to this particular issue. So I don't actually expect it to go away anytime soon,
Oh
especially
no.
with, we've got the next round of World Marathon Majors coming up in the fall. So I could see this rearing its ugly head yet again. So
It's always going to be something.
yeah,
It's literally the same thing as 60 years ago, and women shouldn't be running
right,
marathons.
right.
There's not a place for any time that there's not a place for somebody like that. It's a problem.
Yeah.
And it might not be every single race, but I've seen comments about how races that are famous for not having a time limit,
Hmm.
how that's ridiculous, and that finishers, if it takes you 8 hours, it shouldn't count, and blah blah blah, whatever. I know Honolulu is really good about that. They have no course limit, and they'll have people out there just all day, and
Oh, that's
they're
awesome.
and yeah, it's awesome. And people have so much to say about it, even though it's like nobody's asking them to go volunteer and be out there. Um, so I don't think that the issue's gonna go away. I think it'll probably be it'll get better over time.
Hopefully.
The way it has for everything.
Mhm.
The fact that there are more inclusive races at this point than there used to be shows that we're on the right track. There
Yes,
are,
absolutely.
I'm in a Facebook group. It's the Sloth Run Club.
Yep, heard of
And
them.
so you can't post anything under 12-minute miles.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's a lot of people who are either they're getting started running, or they just don't have the natural talent or tendency. Like they're not going to be running faster than 14-minute miles. Like it's just
Yeah.
not going to happen. And it's to tell them that it's not even worth it because you're at this speed or whatever. I think we are getting better. The fact that there
Yes.
are run groups like that, like there even the virtual club, like the
Hmm.
fact that there are so many people out there running and existing and taking up space and saying like, this is we belong here as much as anybody else. Um and I've been last place in a race. I did the 2015 Austin half marathon. I was 6 months pregnant. So it was kind of a um not a long-term thing, but it took me 3 hours and 51 minutes,
Okay.
and I was trailed by the little ATV sweeper car the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's mentally so much harder to be out there for nearly 4 hours for a half marathon than it is to be out there for 2.5, whatever. It's so to discredit that is ridiculous. It takes some mental strength. I mean,
Yes.
just knowing that, okay, it's not just in typical races, if I slow down, I'm just not gonna get the time that I wanted. But in this race, it was like if I go any more slowly, if I don't pick it up at least a little bit more, I will be swept, and
Yeah.
I will be riding on that ATV back to the finish line. And um
It's
so
nerve-wracking.
it is.
Having that sweep behind you, it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. But when the running boom started in the 70s, it was at first fast people. Those are the
Yep.
only people who went out there. And then over time, it's become more of an every person sport. And I think there's more and more of that.
Yes.
So I think we are moving in the right direction, but I think there will still be people pushing back on that. The same people who get mad that women have a higher time for qualification for things.
Yeah.
You know, people there are always going to be negative people. They're always going to find something to say. As far as the actual post Mebs version, probably sometime in the next week or something. I just have to finish the book. I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
I haven't done it yet. I always have just all these ideas in my head for, oh, I should talk about that.
Well, and
My
also,
mind's like 90% running.
well, I've definitely seen, I think you've upped your Instagram game a lot. I saw you do the whole outfit change in an empty box the other day.
Yeah.
That was well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
does Mr. Running Up That Hillary have to be your camera person for this?
Yeah, most of the time he does. Yeah, that one was actually at my mom's house.
Okay.
So she filmed that one.
All right.
Her dog and cat made appearances in that one.
I did see the
But
animal, yeah.
yeah, but most of the time, yeah, it's my husband
Okay.
and he it's if anyone who meets him, he does not do social media. I don't think he's seen like any of my posts ever. Um, I'll occasionally send him like a picture if I get a running like a good race picture or something. And other than that, he has no idea what it is he's filming. He's just like straight face, just
Okay.
like yeah,
No,
yeah.
I definitely you've definitely started doing some extra stuff, like some really interesting editing and things like that. It's been pretty cool to watch. So
Well, thank
again,
you.
everyone on Instagram, because you don't do anything else. That boggles my little mind. You are like Instagram, and that's really it. Like you don't do Facebook, and
No.
yeah,
No,
is
I
there
mean I have a Facebook, but I don't do any of like the running stuff
the
on
running
there. It's
stuff?
just like and that's where I post like pictures of my kids and
Right,
stuff. And
right,
so I
right,
keep that completely separate. But
for
no, I
sure.
don't have like a YouTube or a TikTok or any of that stuff.
Wow, just
Um,
Instagram
just
only.
Instagram.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So tell us what's coming up for you. I know you're into the hot months and we've got Berlin coming up, but you just did the historic half out in
I
Virginia,
did.
correct?
Yeah.
Tell us a
Yeah.
little about that race because I know a lot of people would like to do that. That's a Marine Corps marathon themed race or that company, they run it. Just a little piece about the historic half, and I'm blindsiding her with this question.
No, you're good. Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So it was in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Which number one, I did not realize that that was a like an hour and a half outside of Washington, D.C. I
Ooh,
just knew that the closest airport was Dulles. And
okay.
so I went to visit my friend who recently moved to the area. I was like, oh yeah, we can go there. We can just drive on down to the expo, drive back, drive in the morning. And it turned out that was not a thing. So just anybody who's looking at it, you will need a car to get there from DC. It's not a bad drive, but I originally was planning on like taking an Uber to the expo and then to her house, and then I looked
That's
and
an expensive Uber right there. That's a real
it
expensive
was,
Uber.
yeah. So that's the first thing.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, which is 100% my fault, it was a really good race.
Okay.
It started really early in the morning. I guess on the East Coast, the sun comes up before 6 a.m.
Hmm.
Which is insane. Because it started at 6 a.m. and it was already like daytime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was interesting. And it was a good course, very hilly in the last 5K, which is tough. And
Yeah.
everybody knew it and talked about it, but and it still managed to blindside me. Like I knew it was there, but then they kept coming. They're like they talk about Hospital Hill,
Yep.
which is a certain hill, but then there's like four others that just keep going. And so I was making very good time up until about mile 10. And my last 3 miles were each about a minute or a minute and a half slower than the first 10.
Well, you gotta love it.
So
A race that finishes with hills. Like that's
yeah,
just brutal. Just start
yeah.
with them and let's get them out of the way.
Yeah. And I did stop a few times on the course. So there's some cool like historic stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then there were people who were cheering that made like cool signs and stuff. Some guy had like a George Washington head wearing all of the medals from past races and
Oh, cool.
stuff, and he like a spectator. And
Mhm.
there was a Civil War cemetery
Ooh,
that
that would be
I
cool.
stopped for a minute to look at.
Yep.
So it's cool as far as the historic stuff goes. And it wasn't a huge race, so it's not the scale of like the Marine Corps Marathon
Okay.
by any means. Like it's definitely not that race, but half. It's a completely different race, but it was definitely very enjoyable. I would love to run the marathon at some point.
So you've not done Marine Corps Marathon?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, I think we're all going in 2025 for their 50th. So why don't you just
Yeah.
plan on next year? Because
All right.
that's a heck of a race. And for the
Yeah, I mean,
50th,
we're doing Berlin for the 50th. Let's see,
I
let's
know.
see
See,
whatever all these races are coming up on 50 years. Let's sign up for all of them.
if I can get anything on an anniversary year, I'm in for it because the
Oh yeah.
swag is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So, well, awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I
Yeah.
imagine we're going to talk again unless you block me on all social media platforms, which, yeah, you wouldn't be the first. No. But yeah, I want you to, stay safe and train,
Yeah.
and I'll be seeing you on the other side of the world come September, right?
Yep.
In good old
Sounds good.
Berlin. Oh,
Yep.
awesome. Well, thank you
I will
so
see you
much for
there.
joining us.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Thank you. All right. A huge, huge thank you to our guest. I really do appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us. I hope everyone enjoyed. Hillary is awesome. Make sure that you go and follow her on her Instagram as she is just getting more and more popular and more videos and content coming out on her end, which is really cool and very entertaining and insightful to read and to hear and to listen and to see and all the good stuff that social media offers. So this weekend we're going to be in Fargo, North Dakota for the marathon. A lot of the people from the Kansas City running community will be up there doing the full and the half. I'll be doing the 5K on Friday night and then the full on Saturday because I make bad decisions. So I hope to see you guys up there. If you are going to be out and about, you know what? Maybe we can grab a drink or grab a beer, or I'll see you at the start line or whatever the case might be. So to anyone running Fargo this weekend here in just a few days, have a great race. Good luck to you. Wherever you might be running this weekend, I hope you have a great race as we're now getting into the warm weather races. So make sure you're getting prepared for that. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And then just understand that, these warmer temperatures means your performance can lag a little bit. So don't hold yourself to the same standards at an 80-degree race as you would a 50-degree race because they're not going to be the same. I'd say for 98% of us, they're not going to be the same. So, cut yourself some slack, give yourself a break, and just make it through. Get through the race, get your medal, mark it off on your checklist, whatever you need to do, and on to the next race we go. So, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you so much to our guest who joined us. We will be back next week with a new episode after the Fargo Marathon. So, until then, have a great week of training, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.